the last video, I talked about a new, modern, more secure way to authenticate on Wi-Fi networks, an authentication scheme that does not rely on centralized credentials like passwords or centralized private keys, one which is universally applied across all of the corporate users' devices and operating systems. Now, how did we do that? We did that by tying the user's identity to the device. Now, how did we tie the user's identity to the device? By creating a personal certificate authority for each of the user's devices and securing the private key inside an insulated environment within the device, something called as the Trusted Platform Module, the TPM. The private key never leaves the device. In this video, we will talk about a new, modern, more secure way to authorize devices on Wi-Fi networks, because you can't talk about authentication without touching authorization. So what does this new modern way to authorize users look like? Well, it's based on the user and device properties like which business unit the user belongs to, or checking the device's true security posture, things like firewall status, uh, hard hard disk encryption status, whether the device is managed by an MDM like Intune or Jamf, whether the device has an endpoint security software like CrowdStrike or Zscaler installed. What location and what time is the device accessing a particular application? For instance, if Sheesh accessed a corporate app from NYC at 2 p.m. and is now accessing the same app from an unmanaged device from China at 4 p.m., there must be something wrong over there. To be able to detect anomalies like this and to be able to take action based on these anomalies. Now let's have a quick look at how these policies can be configured from the BI Cloud Console. So here I am. I'm going to log into my org ID. Go ahead and log in. Finish the verification process. And this is the dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly navigate to policies because that's what we want to demonstrate. And you can see that the rules are pretty similar to how a firewall ACL rule gets applied. And you have rule one here, then rule one. I mean, you can get very complex with these policies. So for the purposes of the demo, let's go ahead and edit policy. And we're going to go ahead and add a rule. Here, the user has the option to apply policies that pertain to either an authentication transaction or policies regarding adding new devices. So this is typically in the Wi-Fi world would be considered for policies for BYOD. So if you want to add devices or move the credentials over, we have quite a lot of options here, whether how many devices the user can bring on, and what OS should be running on those devices. Whether or not we want to allow a certain OS or not is up to us. We can also figure out whether this device is actually managed by our MDM platform like Intune, Jamf, or Workspace ONE. For the purposes of the demo, let's go to the transaction for authentication. Here, we're gonna not look at the user, but we can say the device platform is, let's say, Android. We can look for things like whether the Android device is rooted, whether, let's say, you detect rooted. You can also say whether the device's authentication method is set for biometric. If it's not, then you don't want to possibly, allow this device. So you need biometric authentication. That's something that you may want to do. The same thing goes for iOS. You want to see if it's jailbroken or not. But more complex policies can be applied for Windows. So let's say if this is a Windows domain joined corporate machine, you want to make sure that the antivirus is turned on, or you want to look at the status of the firewall, or you want to say that the device is domain joined or not, if a particular file exists or not. I mean, you can see that this can get pretty intense. Let's look at installed security software. We're going to say installed security software is CrowdStrike. And we're going to see if the Intune registration is any of these, right? So again, we're not relying on what the device is telling us. We're actually going to go ahead and query Intune to figure out whether or not the device is registered or not. So the source of truth is actually the Intune cloud and not the device itself. So I'm going to say registered, as well as I want to say CrowdStrike Falcon Zero Trust Assessment Score. So again, an API query to the CrowdStrike cloud to figure out whether the ZTA score that the CrowdStrike endpoint security software is reporting is, let's say, less than 70. If it's less than 70, then you want to go ahead and deny that. So this can get pretty complex. And if you deny a policy, then you can put a custom notification here that the user gets, or where you can say that, hey, please reach out to your IT admin. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this. And I'm going to go ahead and add a rule for authentication. And device platform is Windows. And within Windows, let's say if the firewall is turned off, you want to deny this user. I'm going to go ahead and add that policy and let that be policy number 1. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag that rule number 1 right here. I'm going to go ahead and publish the changes. Now let's go ahead and turn off the firewall on my Windows machine and see if we can go ahead and authenticate. All right, we're on a Windows machine here, and you can see that I have disabled the firewall. I'm going to go ahead and turn the firewall off, and we're going to go ahead and connect to Wi-Fi. So beyond identity, connect, locating the authenticator. And at this point, we are not allowing this particular device to log on to Wi-Fi because, the security posture of the device does not match the policies that has been configured for this particular device. Now let's take a look at the BI admin console again to see what the IT admin would see when they want to troubleshoot this particular issue. Okay, so we're back on the admin port of the admin console. And here under events, we can go ahead and see the event for a particular user at a particular time. And we can see that the policy was denied. And the reason that it was denied is because it matched a certain rule. And if you look at the evaluation, it actually highlights which rule was matched. And so it becomes very easy for the IT admin to troubleshoot this issue. So, all right, so this concludes this video. I hope this was helpful, and keep watching the space. We'll keep adding more and more demos here. So thank you for watching.